This iPhone 17 is definitely not like the rest. Want to know just how much has changed compared to last year's iPhone 16, the iPhone 15, or even the iPhone 14? We'll take a deep dive into the design, display, performance, cameras, and battery to let you know if this is the year you absolutely need to upgrade. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com. When you look at the iPhone 17 and the iPhone 16, they look practically identical, though the 17 is actually a tiny bit taller. The iPhone 15 and 14, however, are basically twins. All come with matte aluminium frames and frosted glass backs, with the exception of the iPhone 14, which has a glossy rear. And as you can see, they all come in very colorful shades. For weight, the iPhone 17 tips the scale at 177 grams, the iPhone 16 is actually the lightest at 168 grams, while the 15 is 170 grams and the 14 171 grams, making the latest iPhone the heaviest of the bunch. For durability, all share an identical IP68 rating. That means that they're completely dust tight and can survive being submerged in water for 30 minutes at a depth of 6 meters. Since that's way deeper than your average bathtub, you're pretty safe if you accidentally drop one in there. So as always, let's check in with the team and see who likes which design best.
iPhone 16.
The 16.
The 16.
The 16.
The 17.
The 17. What about you?
I'm actually gonna go for the 15. Now, let's check out these displays. Right here is one of the biggest upgrades Apple gave the iPhone this year. The iPhone 17 now sports a larger 6.3-inch LTPO OLED panel with an anti-reflective coating, while the rest of the lineup has a 6.1-inch OLED display. The 17 also finally brings 120Hz with a variable refresh rate, allowing it to drop all the way to a single Hz to save battery. The rest are all stuck on a rather outdated 60Hz refresh rate. We threw them under simulated sunlight at over 100,000 lux and measured the typical high brightness using a full white screen. The iPhone 17 hit 1,154 nits, the 16 was almost identical at 1,110 nits, and the 15 was also extremely similar at 1,135 nits. Only the iPhone 14 was significantly dimmer, reaching only 856 nits. For security, all four use Face ID, however, the iPhone 14 still houses it in a notch, while the rest have the much sleeker looking dynamic island. Now, for even more info on screen specs, including our measured peak brightness, feel free to pause the video right here. So it's crystal clear that the display on the iPhone 17 is a massive step up from the previous iPhones. It's bigger, has slimmer bezels, offers much higher peak brightness, and finally has that 120Hz refresh rate that's been standard on even budget phones for years. Oh, and of course that anti-reflective coating is the cherry on top. So the screen is definitely a win for the iPhone 17, but what about the sound coming out of these bad boys? All four of these iPhones come with stereo speakers. You get one speaker at the top and one at the bottom, specifically on the right side, as the other grill is reserved for a microphone. Here's an audio sample for you.
I'm a little too into you. Got my head over my shoes, but I like it. I'm a little too into you. Got me up over the moon, but I like it. I'm counting colors in your eyes. I'm losing track of all my time. It's like I'm high. Tried not to slip into your blue, but I've been slipping into you. The floor is ice.
Out of the whole lineup, the iPhone 17 and 16 sound practically identical, both offering great clarity and seriously punchy audio. The older iPhone 15 and especially the 14 start to lack a bit of bass and sound thinner by comparison. Oh, and by the way, we know you guys are definitely loving our videos, but a lot of you aren't subscribed yet. So if you want more deep and fresh comparisons, make sure to boop that subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, it's awesome to have you around. Oh, and another thing, if so far you're interested in any of these phones, we put direct links for you in the description below. All right, time to check out those cameras. The main camera remains unchanged this year on the iPhone 17, 16, and 15. This is a 48-megapixel sensor with an f1.6 aperture. The iPhone 14 comes with a 12-megapixel main shooter and an f1.5 aperture. In daylight, they all look very similar, but the iPhone 14 does lack some fine detail and is the only one that blows out the highlights in super bright areas. Indoors, this weakness is even more apparent on the iPhone 14. Interestingly, also inside, the white balance goes from being rather warm on the iPhone 17 to noticeably colder on the iPhone 14. For the ultra-wide camera, the iPhone 17 snags the same 48-megapixel ultra-wide camera found on the iPhone 16 Pro and 17 Pro models. All the rest come with a 12-megapixel camera. However, once again, the iPhone 14 still has a noticeably cooler white balance compared to the others. On the other hand, the iPhone 17, thanks to that bigger sensor, clearly captures more fine detail. Indoors, all photos show some noise, but it's not really that extreme. The iPhone 15, however, delivers the softest looking photos of the group. Now, for portrait mode, none are perfect, but they all do a solid job at applying realistic background blur. However, the iPhone 14 looks the roughest of the bunch. At 2x digital zoom, edge detection remains pretty much the same. Unlike the rest, the iPhone 14 can't zoom in at all in this mode, plus it struggles with highlights. Switching gears to video, all four can film at a maximum of 4K 60 FPS resolution, though for our reviews, we always stick to 4K 30 FPS. Just like with photos, we see no major differences in video quality, though the iPhone 14 does suffer from a bit more lens reflection when shooting against the sun. Cinematic mode is also available in all at a 4K 30 FPS format. Super intense highlights get a bit blown out in this mode, but otherwise, the background blur looks realistic in all four iPhones. For ultra-wide video, all models can film at a maximum of 4K 60 FPS. Once again, we have no major differences, but the iPhone 17 and 16 capture a tiny bit more shadow detail compared to the 15 and 14. Moving to the front, the iPhone 17 introduces a new 18-megapixel selfie cam with a square sensor, letting you switch between vertical and horizontal formats without having to move your wrists. The other three iPhones stick with a classic 12-megapixel front-facing camera. The 17 and 16 show slightly better highlight control on skin tones, but the iPhone 17 clearly has a huge advantage with its much wider field of view. If you want to record video, you're faced, pun intended, with a maximum 4K 60 FPS resolution across all models. Here you also get a slightly wider frame on the 17, but it's a tiny bit less noticeable. The overall post-processing, on the other hand, is basically identical across all models. So now let's test out the audio coming from all of these devices, and we'll start off over here with the iPhone 14. What do you think? How do I sound over here? We're gonna go through all models and see if there have been any improvements throughout the years. So let's move on to the iPhone 15. Is it any better than the 14? I'm in a relatively busy area, so how's it handling that? Then we move on to the iPhone 16. Any better than the other two? Do I sound any different? What do you think? And finally, we come to the newest iPhone 17, and have there been any major improvements? What do you think? As always, let's talk about it. Honestly, there's not a huge difference in audio capture. All four highlight my voice, but none of them completely cancel out background noise. For zoom, none of these iPhones have a dedicated telephoto camera, so you are stuck with digital zoom. Apple claims the 2x digital zoom has optical quality, but that's not 100% true, as it's still a crop on the sensor. From all four phones, the 14 is the least sharp. At 5x digital zoom, quality degrades even more, and once again, the 14 misses the most detail. The 17, 16, and 15 can zoom all the way to 10x digital zoom, but the quality is kinda rough. At least the option is there though. Now let's go vampire mode and check out some low light examples. With the main cam, the iPhone 17 delivers the brightest shots with colors that are slightly boosted but still true to life. With the ultra-wide camera, the iPhone 14 is the worst performer, while the 16 is the sharpest, maybe a bit too much though. For low light portrait mode, even though edge detection is nearly identical, the iPhone 14 stands out again with a really heavy green tint. For video with the main lens, textures get heavily smoothed in all models, and there's some expected noise. And as you can see, our friendly neon cactus really casts a heavy reflection over the lenses. With the ultra-wide cameras, quality drops even more, especially on the 15 and 14. Both the 17 and the 16 capture more shadow detail, but the 17 does have more realistic colors. Ultimately, all four phones perform extremely similarly in well-lit scenarios. It's only in dim light where the iPhone 14 starts to really show its age. If you really care about camera quality, the iPhone 17 is the clear best choice, especially considering its great low-light performance and that neat new front-facing camera. But what's a good camera without a powerful chipset to back it up? Here we have Apple's A19 on the iPhone 17, the A18 on the 16, the A16 Bionic on the 15, and the A15 Bionic on the 14. For RAM, the iPhone 17 and 16 both pack 8GB, while the 15 and 14 offer only 6GB. In terms of storage, the iPhone 17 now starts at 256GB, though all four models top out at the same 512GB. As is now standard practice, all these iPhones are eSIM exclusive in the US, but international models still come with physical SIM support. For connectivity, the iPhone 17 introduces Apple's new N1 chip for wireless connections, but it doesn't get the Apple-made C1 or C1X modems found in the iPhone Air or 16e, meaning all these models rely on a Qualcomm chip for cellular connectivity. Another consistency across all four models is the rather slow USB 2.0 speed for data transfer. Oh, and talking about ports, remember the iPhone 14 is still rocking the older Lightning port. But to really see what these phones can do, we'll throw them into some real-world testing, starting with gaming. We'll run 30-minute sessions with cooldown time in between. First up, Grid Legends in graphics mode. Interestingly, the iPhone 17 is the only one unlocked to 40 FPS in this mode, while the others are capped at 30 FPS. The 17 also sustained the highest frame rate, dropping only to 37 FPS, though it did run the hottest alongside the 16. Next, we launched Wuthering Waves and cranked the graphics all the way up. All hit 60 FPS at launch, but the iPhone 17 showed again the best stability, dropping to only 50 FPS. The iPhone 16, however, ran the hottest this time too. Moving on from gaming, we exported 99 photos in Lightroom. The iPhone 17 was the quickest by far at 5.5 minutes, while the iPhone 14 was last, finishing almost 4 minutes later. Next, we rendered a 3-minute 4K 30 FPS video in CapCut. Surprisingly, the iPhone 17 was the slowest here at 36 seconds, while the 15 was the quickest. Still, all four finish in under a minute. But now, let's check out some benchmarks. In Geekbench 6, we see improving scores with each generation, with the biggest performance jump being clearly from the iPhone 15 to the 16 in both single-core and multi-core performance. In 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme stress test, each generation naturally scores better than the last. But for perspective, the Galaxy S25 scores 6,358 points in the highest loop, but drops to 2,980 points in the lowest loop, showing it has more raw power but throttles much harder than any of Apple's chips. In Antutu, we see another massive jump, this time from the 16 to the 17, which breaks the 2 million point mark. So, as Tim Cook would say, the iPhone 17 is definitely their most powerful base iPhone they've ever made, as it comes with really noticeable gains in performance, especially for gaming, which is huge if you want to play demanding console ports like Assassin's Creed Mirage or Control Ultimate Edition. That said, none of the older models are super slow by any means in most everyday tasks. So, with hardware covered, let's see what's up with the software. All of these iPhones are currently running iOS 26.0.1, which is the latest version that squashes some pesky bugs from the initial release. Apple never gives official support numbers, but you can safely expect about 7 years of OS and security updates. That means the iPhone 14 should get software updates all the way until 2029. Now, let's talk features. The iPhone 17 doesn't really have anything major here that the iPhone 16 doesn't also include, with the exception of the always-on display that was previously reserved for Pro models. So altogether, the 17 and the 16 are the most feature-packed. Both include the latest generation photographic styles, the cleanup tool in the gallery, the playground app, the customizable action button, or that dedicated camera button that personally we barely use. In terms of AI, the iPhone 17 and 16 get the full suite of Apple Intelligence, which includes the new, more natural Siri with ChatGPT integration and visual intelligence for camera-based searches. The older iPhone 15 and the iPhone 14 are relegated to the basic Siri version, which replies to every single question with, "Here is what I found on the web." The good news is that all four phones get the same Windows Aero-looking liquid glass interface, which comes with much deeper personalization options than ever before. But now let's move on to our final category. From all of these iPhones, the iPhone 17 now packs the biggest battery at 3,692 mAh, which is a slight bump up from the iPhone 16s. Apple still doesn't publicly list wired charging speeds, but for wireless charging, the iPhone 17 and 16 support 25 watts, while the 15 and 14 are limited to 15 watts, all using a MagSafe compatible charger, of course. While all of these iPhones support reverse wired charging, they can only wirelessly recharge MagSafe power banks, and only when that power bank is snapped onto the phone and the phone itself is plugged in with a cable. So no luck using your iPhone to top up your AirPods wirelessly. During our time with these phones, we definitely noticed the iPhone 17's battery lasted the longest. And that's not just due to its larger size, but also because the older phones' batteries naturally degrade over time, whether they're used heavily or not. In our charging test using a 100 watts charger, the iPhone 17 surprisingly filled its battery in just 1 hour and 14 minutes, hitting a peak of 33 watts. The iPhone 15 was the second fastest at 1 hour and 41 minutes, topping up at 21 watts. Next came the iPhone 14 at 1 hour and 48 minutes, also peaking at 21 watts. Oddly, the iPhone 16 was the slowest, taking 1 hour and 53 minutes, despite reaching a higher peak of 25 watts. Finally, we have the prices. And here we actually have a really pleasant surprise, because despite all those massive hardware improvements on the iPhone 17, it retails for the exact same price as last year's model, sitting at $799. The iPhone 16 has seen its price slashed by $100, now selling for $699. The older iPhone 15 and 14 are no longer officially sold by Apple, but you can find unlocked units in mint condition for around $500 and $350 respectively on sites like Swappa. Which means that for the price of an iPhone 17, you can get 2 iPhone 14s, one for you and one for your cat, and still have $100 left for catnip. Just remember that you might need to drop some cash later to swap the batteries on those older models, depending on their cycle count and longevity. So, as you can see, Apple truly knocked the ball out of the park this year with the iPhone 17. They've delivered an absolute killer deal, all while keeping the price at the exact same $799. I mean, it's basically last year's iPhone 16 Pro, but without the telephoto lens. Though hopefully that will be Apple's next addition to the base model, considering both Samsung and Google now offer 3 cameras on their base flagships. However, if you just want a capable iPhone and couldn't care less about all that new AI wizardry, the iPhone 14 is actually a really solid alternative, especially since you still get plenty of years of software support to come. And speaking about Google, if you're maybe interested in seeing how the new base Pixel 10 compares to its predecessors, the Pixel 9, 8, and 7, you can punch that link right here. And before you go check out how much storage you have left, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and hit subscribe, as we're always testing new devices to help you make the best choice. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.